And that is why you do not want to see the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs. A team that had been struggling to shoot it the last few games struggles to shoot it, except for one man, Steph Curry. 12 threes in the game, 56 points. Put him on your back, Steph. Big win in Orlando. It's 5 straight. Break it down and bring some energy.
Who cares now? Because I'm here, and I would like to think that I am wanted here.
Most importantly, he a dog.
We got 4 championships.
You are Locked On Warriors.
I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Speculation is just what it is, though.
Your team every day.
Who can stop Steph Curry? Definitely not the Orlando Magic. What a basketball game, and welcome into Locked On Warriors, everyone. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. We do have a free daily newsletter sent to you. It's got all Warriors news, NBA nuggets, lockedondaily.com. Subscribe to that. It's sent to your email. It is free. YouTube's a good way to check us out if you're hanging out with us right now and you like Steph Curry, or if you just like the NBA, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. It's free. We are also available wherever you go on the audio podcast. My name's Charlie Walter, formerly at 95.7 The Game. That's the flagship of the Golden State Warriors. Also covered the team in their title run for CBS News Bay Area, call letters KPIX. Joining me on the show today is Matt Kolsky, formerly at 95.7 The Game, a talk show host there, and a talk show host at KNBR. Not quite a career high for Steph Curry in points nor three-pointers. He had hit 13 before. The NBA record was 14 from Klay Thompson, but Steph puts it in the bucket from deep 12 times. 56, man. Incredible stuff from Steph Curry. We got MVP chance in Orlando. San Francisco, this side of the country. Orlando, all the way down here on the other side of the country. And we got Steph Curry chance in Orlando. What a show he put on. Craziest part of this game, the score. Warriors 121, the Magic 115. This was not some sort of blowout. It was a game that Steph Curry had to will the Warriors to a victory in. The Magic played great. Steph Curry played better. The Magic scored 21 points in the third quarter. Steph Curry scored 22 points in the third quarter. There were Curry flurries down the stretch, but let's hit it chronologically. Paolo Banchero torched the Warriors in the game. He had 41 points, 24 in the first half on 10 of 12 shooting. Nothing could stop the Magic. It was their best first quarter of the year. They were 15 of 18, 4 of 6 from 3. They looked phenomenal. They were 5 of 10 from 3 to start the game and 5 of 28 their entire last game against Cleveland. This is the worst shooting team in the NBA. They were red hot, and they had a 14-point halftime lead. However, I feel like most of Dub Nation knew to hit the live bet in this game. It was the only play, Kolsky, because Steph Curry hits a half quarter right before halftime, and he just had that look in his eye. It was brought up on the broadcast that the Warriors were not losing tonight with the way he was playing. I mean, he was sizzling. Heat check all game.
It was a classic Steph Curry night. And you're right. It's not just that he hit something going into the half. It's three-quarter court, nothing but net. Just, I almost felt bad for the Magic, up 14 at halftime.
They played so well.
Because they did. They played so well, but you knew they couldn't shoot 65% for another half of basketball. And you just knew Steph Curry was coming. And boy, did he. That third quarter was, again, a classic. 22-point quarter. How many 20-point quarters did Steph Curry have over the heart of the Warriors championship run? It's just, it feels good. There's nobody like him in the league, maybe ever, but certainly right now, where he can excite an opponent's building in his favor better than anyone I can ever remember seeing. Because, look, people are amazed by LeBron. People were amazed by Jordan. But, like, there's an anger when they're doing it to you. And somehow there's something so wonderful and joyful and beautiful about Steph Curry playing basketball that when he starts doing it to your team, it's hard not to still kind of like it. And yeah, there's a lot of Steph Curry fans in that house, but there were a lot of Magic fans giving him an ovation when he subbed out in that third quarter.
It's the dream, man. I remember back in YMCA basketball back in the day, you're never thinking about, hey, we're going to come back on this team that's bigger, stronger, faster than us. We're down 27 at halftime. We're not coming back by taking the ball to the rim and dunking on these big fellas. We're going to chuck up some shots and hope that they are going to go in. And with Curry, like down the stretch of this game, I mean, it's Steph Curry, so there's no such thing as chucking up anything. There's no such thing as hoping. These are calculated shots. But some of the difficulty on these shots, and he missed a few of them, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, they're throwing doubles at him. They were not going to let Steph Curry beat them, and he still beat them. He found a way every single time, man.
No one has wanted to let Steph Curry beat them for a very long time. You know what I mean? Like, he's been on the level of don't let that guy beat you for a decade. And he still beats people all the time. And you know what? Jimmy Butler wasn't particularly good tonight, but his presence is still enough to give that extra couple inches of space. The fact that Moody and Podziemski are playing so much better, that helps to just give that extra inch of space. And I think sometimes when it had been so hard for so long with so little other scoring threat on the floor, you can forgive some of the outsiders for forgetting that it's just that extra fraction of an inch that this guy needs to be as dynamic and explosive of a scorer as the NBA has ever seen.
What's crazy, too, is when Wiggins, the 2 games after Andrew Wiggins had left, but Jimmy Butler had not arrived, when Butler was still on the Warriors bench, I think it was Utah and LA, he was shooting 30 shots a game. Remember? Shooting 30 shots a game to score 30 points. He knew he had to do a ton, but didn't have the spacing and the gravity that Jimmy Butler provides, right? It didn't allow him to free up as much. Tonight, he only shot it 25 times to score 56. He was 16 of 25, 12 of 19 from deep. He got to the free throw line 12 times. He knocked every single one down. Did have 4 turnovers in the game, but you can excuse that at this point. Draymond had 4 turnovers too. That's just the Golden State Warriors, man. You get a few Draymond throwing passes off the backboard from time to time. It's part of the game. And then
Draymond actually
the other way and knocked down 3, but that's part of the Warriors experience. You also get 12 threes from Curry.
Draymond's weren't so bad for me tonight. Steph had a couple of that attempted pocket pass to, I believe Kalena described it like he threw it into Wendell Carter's calves. That was brutal. There were a couple of throwaways from Steph that were awful. 2 of Draymond's weren't even his fault. There was one where Podziemski faked him out. and then there was another one where he thought Butler was going to go up on one side of the rim and Jimmy tried to go under. And you know, those I can forgive. It's that pass was never, ever going to get through that drive me nuts. Even when he's scoring 56 points, I wish he wouldn't do that, but you're probably right. We just gotta, it's a small price to pay for the sort of things that we got to watch tonight.
And it's fascinating to watch a game where a player, and it can be anyone, because any NBA team, any college team, any high school team, when you have a player that's as unconscious as Steph Curry, they're going to there. That's the Wi-Fi from time to time. It's perfect every single night. And then the day that Steph Curry decides to go for 56, they say they must be Magic fans running the cable here in the Walter household. But down the stretch, it's just crazy how Magic know it's coming. They're throwing doubles at the guy. Curry's moving all over the floor. I mean, the Fitbit, if he was wearing one, would have read 25,000 by the end of this game, and no one can fricking stop him. But at a point, it kind of scared me because the Magic were hanging around. They were down by 3 points late in the basketball game. And I'm thinking, what if they lose this game with Steph Curry playing this well?
Well, I mean,
they had no other answers, it felt like, aside from Steph.
Yeah, and I do think that's something we can talk about, and maybe tonight's not the night because there's plenty of good stuff to focus on tonight. But, Jimmy Butler isn't Jimmy Butler yet, and I think a huge part of that is just conditioning, and there's there's being in shape, and then there's being in NBA game shape, and you can't get in NBA game shape without playing NBA games. And he sat out for a long time, came back, started to find a rhythm, then had the whole All-Star break to sit out, which for him was over a week. I get it, but he is going to have to start to look for his shot more at some point. These are like the smaller problems that when you have what they now have, which is both juice and depth, you can afford to play through some of this stuff because, Steph Curry will save you on a night. And you know what? Sometime before the end of the season, Jimmy Butler's going to save you on a night when Steph Curry doesn't have it. So, that's the advantage of having them both.
You heard the number for Jimmy Butler from 3, right? 1 for 14 to start the season. Pull up the stats when we come back.
To start the Warriors.
To start his Warriors campaign. Jimmy Butler's 1 of 14 from 3 since that trade. Bring up the stats, his overall numbers, because he's not a 1 of 14 3-point shooter over his career. I could promise you this is a guy that can keep you honest from 3-point range. We're going to talk about that coming up. And in all honesty, it's the Steph Curry love fest today. Just an incredible game of basketball, one that you will remember among many of the greats in his career. We're going to relive it, and then we're going to give some game balls to unsung heroes, guys like Quinton Post, players that were outstanding. Paolo Banchero, hell, give the guy a game ball. He was excellent. We're going to talk about everyone that's not Steph Curry as well coming up. That is on Locked On Warriors.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And this would have been the perfect game to get in on FanDuel because they have a live betting feature. And when you see Warriors down 14 and you're getting plus odds at halftime and you know that Steph Curry has that look in his eyes, you could have made a lot of money from this game tonight on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. And with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you could stay in on the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
All right, Steph Curry, 56 points in a win over the Orlando Magic. Let's not bury the lead. It is the 5th straight win for the Golden State Warriors, and it is one that they needed. Like, all the attention turned to Steph down the stretch of this game because he hit his 9th three-pointer with, 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. So granted, it was a stretch, but at that point you're thinking, hey, maybe he could set his career high on threes. Maybe he could set his career high on points. Maybe he can break Klay Thompson's all-time record. He came close, but a big barrage of those threes were down the stretch in the final 3-4 minutes of this game. To start the fourth quarter, he was on the bench. He sat there for 4 minutes. Let's pose that question, because I always hate when players sit when they have a chance at a record. But the record in that situation, it doesn't matter, right? It's about winning the game. And we just said on the last show how important rest is. You have a chance to give him some rest up 10, 11 points, whatever it was. You're going to take advantage. But me personally, the fan, I would have loved to have seen Steph get a few more opportunities because he would have gotten it, man. He just ran out of time.
Okay, first of all, to the last thing you said, I feel you, but also he never has gotten it, and he's been hot plenty of times. So, that 14, it's not that easy. But also, the first thing you said is right. It's not. I am pretty sure Steph Curry will take the deal. He may not have wanted to come out because he was feeling it. But if you told him no more records the rest of the year, but you get the 5 seed, he's taking that deal 100 times out of 10. It's just not a consideration for these guys right now. When Steph Curry hangs up his shoes, he will have plenty of records. I promise you that. Nobody is going to doubt his ability to shoot the three-pointer when he hangs them up. So if he never gets to that 14, you know what? Clay deserves a record too. You know, I actually don't care about that one. I kind of enjoy that Clay gets that one record for himself because he's not going to get any other 3-point records. The poor guy. He had to play with the greatest of all time. He might be the second greatest 3-point shooter ever. I mean, he is in that conversation, Klay Thompson, and all the records are going to be to his teammate. So let him have that one, I say.
Hey, fair enough. He's not going to be breaking any records, but he's a good 3-point shooter. That's Quinton Post. Let's give him his flowers a minute before we get back to the main attraction, Steph Curry. Post in the game was huge off the bench, man. 24 points, 7 of 9, 2 of 4 from 3, knocked down a couple of free throws, had 5 rebounds, a plus 22. That was the best on the team. 18 points. This is someone that was in Santa Cruz, a month, maybe a month and a half ago, and we wondered if he could even find his time on the floor, and he's affecting basketball games pretty consistently. Not every night, but he looks like a pretty damn good rookie. Like, forget second-round pick. You stack him up against, 30 rookies in the first round, and he holds his own against almost any of the middle-tier guys.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing what he's doing, you'd have been thrilled to pick him at 15. I think what's really impressive is all the stuff besides threes. I mean, listen, like, we knew the reason they drafted the kid is that he's a 7-footer who shoots threes. And if you had told me at the beginning of the year, obviously we're on record saying we didn't expect him to play much, certainly not relevant minutes this season. But if you had told me he was going to, I would have expected him to be knocking down threes at a near or at 40% clip. That part I could have imagined, at least, even if I didn't expect it. I had no idea that he would be pretty fleet of foot for a guy of that size. I mean, he moves really well, that he would be a more than competent defender. He's not Wemby. He's not going to win any DPOYs, but like, we talked so much about Vucevic, and I'm telling you right now, you would rather have Quinton Post than Nick Vucevic. That doesn't mean Post can do everything Vucevic can do. Certainly he's not a rebounder like Vuce. Certainly he doesn't have the myriad of post offense that Vuce has. But what he does do is knock down shots and do a lot of other things at a better than passable level. So just the fact that he's able to defend well enough to keep him on the floor against the team with athletic bigs like the Magic is a huge bonus for the Warriors. And if they can get, a good 20 minutes out of him once a week, again, that's found money. So I can't say enough good things about the way he looked tonight. Not just knocking down threes, which you expect, but playing defense and moving around and driving on a couple of occasions. Really, really good stuff from Quinton Post.
I thought it was interesting when Steve Kerr makes the decision to go from Moses Moody in the starting lineup to Quinton Post in the second half to free up Draymond Green in regards to guarding Paolo Banchero. And I thought, Banchero cooked in this game today with 41, and Wagner, what were the final numbers from him in the game today? He had some moments for sure. He had 27 on 11 of 22 shooting. Franz can play. Those two guys were the only dudes that beat you. Cole Anthony had 11. Of course, no Jalen Suggs. He's hurt right now for the Orlando Magic. So it was a two-man show from Orlando, who shot at 40% from 3 and 50% from the floor. I did think, however, when Draymond made that switch and Jimmy Butler, too, in the first half for moments, they did a decent job on Banchero, really forcing him to that 3-point shot, which, granted, Banchero hit 4 of 10. But there was a stretch there in the, first quarter, I believe it was, where Banchero goes with 2 in a span of, it was this play. It was Draymond chucked it off the backboard. I don't know who he was looking for, but he threw it off the backboard. Banchero goes the other way, hits the second of back-to-back threes, had a hand in his face. And at that point, I'm like, the law of averages are going to come into play here. That live bet I was telling you about, everyone in the world should hammer it because the law of averages is going to come into play. I know this guy's not a good shooter. I look up the stats. He's 29% on the season, 31% from his career. So, I mean, credit to the Warriors defense, I guess, too, in the second half, specifically the third quarter, where they hold the Magic to 21 in the game. We're going to talk about Steph all night, but that was the difference in your game. It was holding those guys and neutralizing those two for just enough, just a small enough spurt of this game to climb back in it and win.
Their defense against Banchero was much better in the second half, but in their defense, he's an excellent player when he attacks. I think what you want for a guy like Banchero as a defender is for him to fall in love with the three a little bit. And in a way, I think he might have hit his first 4. You said he was 4 of 10. Maybe he hit his first 3 and then was, 1 of 7 the rest of the way. But you're kind of happy that he's going to take those extra 7 threes because he's not. I mean, again, he's a 29% shooter on the year. You're going to see him miss a lot of threes more often than not. And I think part of what led to such a great start for the Magic is that the Warriors were playing them like the worst three-point shooting team in basketball, because they are the worst three-point shooting team in basketball. Everybody in this league can get hot on any given night, and that's what happened in the first half. Which, again, that combined with the way Steph looked when he hit that 3 to close the first half, that's why you had that feeling like the Magic can't keep this up, and Steph, something big's going to happen in this second half, and that's exactly the way it went,
Hey, in season number 2, because there's pre-Jimmy Butler, there's BJ. Yes, BJ, before Jimmy. Yeah, it works. It's a podcast. All right, BB. Before Butler. Anyways, before Jimmy, the Warriors obviously were a playing team. Since Jimmy has arrived, they are now 7-1. They've had a lot of these comeback games. They've held on to leads down the stretch, one of those being today. Huge win for the Warriors. Let's do a little wellness check. How are we feeling about Golden State, Kolsky? Let's keep the energy up. This is Locked on Dubs.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
All right, let's get right into it, man. How we feeling? 7-1. Let's look at these standings. The Clippers won the last game I saw. I mean, this is the time of the year where it starts to get fun. You get to look at the standings every single night.
For the moment, they're tied with Minnesota for 7th, a half game behind the Clippers. Minnesota tips off at about 20 minutes against the Lakers. So if they lose, the Warriors will be sole possessors of the 7th spot and half game behind the Clippers, who play the Lakers in their next 2 games. So, if the Lakers take care of business the next 3 nights, the Warriors have a good shot at being in the 6th seed the next time I talk to you on air. And that sounds like a pretty good deal. That said, the Clippers' home stretch is similar to the Warriors in terms of the level of opponent. Like, there's a lot of winnable games for them. So I would not be surprised if that final game of the season between the Warriors and Clippers has some bearing on who ends up in the actual playoffs and who ends up in the play-in. How am I feeling about the Warriors in general? Like, really excellent. And I don't want to oversell it because
it's a fun watch, and it was stale for a while.
First of all, I mean, it was really from the time Jonathan Kaminga got hurt to the time they made the Jimmy Butler trade, it became incredibly clear that something had to be done. The whole thing felt stale. Steph was working so hard just to keep them in games. It wasn't good enough. Since Jimmy has been here, it's still not good enough to win anything. But he hasn't quite been fully Jimmy just yet. And they're still missing the guy who should step in and be the 4th best player, if not 3rd best player, on this team. And I really believe the Kaminga thing is going to work. I really believe they're going to get more from Jimmy Butler. And I believe that is enough to beat good teams. Now, I don't know that the way they've played the last 8 is enough to win 2 or 3 playoff series, okay? But I am projecting forward and expecting this to continue to improve. And for me, the proof is in the pudding with Butler. Like, do you remember this is something I wanted to bring up tonight. Do you remember about a month or two into Kevin Durant's first season with the Warriors, they talked about having to have a little sit down with KD and say, hey, man, you're working really hard to fit in here, and we super appreciate that, but we need you to go ahead and go out there and be Kevin Durant. And I don't know if that meeting is going to have to happen with Jimmy Butler. He seems to me like the sort of guy who is going to do it when he's ready. But he's not doing it yet. He is working really hard to fit in, and you love that. He's working really hard to find his teammates. He's not looking for his own shot hardly at all. I mean, tonight was even more so. But he hasn't been shooting a ton since he got here, and tonight
I'd counter, though. And you know this better than anyone, being a Bulls guy, but everyone I've talked to that's from the Philly fan base, it's from the Heat fan base, maybe not everyone, but they say this is what he does every single season, turns it up a notch when the playoffs come.
Yeah, but he does, but it's up a notch from
25 points, yeah,
right. It's not up a notch from 5 to 30. It's up a notch from 25 to 35.
But we've seen 20-point Jimmy 4 of these 7 games, right? I mean, maybe it's just
barely,
the bias,
just barely,
recency.
And he is not forcing himself on the basketball game like he's capable of and like he's had to do so many times over the last few years with the Heat. Now, I think he appreciates not having to do that. I think he is still getting physically to where he wants to be. Again, there are reasons for this. I'm not necessarily critiquing. What I'm saying is there's room to improve what we've already seen from Jimmy, which has already had them at 7-1 since he got here. And there's Jonathan Kaminga coming back. I have very high hopes for what this team can be. I really, really do.
So let's get into that. Kaminga being reintegrated. Kaminga's first action with Jimmy Butler. Starting lineup to me, I think you slide out Moody, you slide in Kaminga. Unless Post has earned himself the starting center spot, then I don't know how you get creative with it.
I don't think if you start Quinton Post. I do think you start him in the second half when you have games like tonight where size is hurting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Orlando was taking it down the Warriors' throats to start the game, and it helps when everything from beyond the three-point line's going in. But you would think that the best 5, I mean, Moody and Podziemski, it's kind of a crapshoot, but Podziemski right now he's the better facilitator. As a ball handler in there with Steph, it makes sense. Kaminga, and then Draymond, and then Jimmy Butler is your 3 bigger guys. How does that look to you? How do you think this all works out when Kaminga comes back? You would have to assume the team only gets better, but there are moments from time to time where a team adds someone else and it throws off the funk, roles change a little bit, and it takes some time to get reaccustomed, which the Warriors don't have time to do, quite frankly. Like, they have to keep pace. Doesn't matter about the 5. It really doesn't matter about the 4. You just have to get in. You can't give this team any chance to have some injuries in a 1-game slate or a 2-game slate, or have a bad shooting night, which we've seen from time to time is very possible, especially from Steph Curry this year. So I think you really just have to get into that 6 spot any way possible. And I would imagine that Kaminga coming back wouldn't give you any issues, or there wouldn't be anything that would make you think they won't mesh.
It doesn't give me any issues. Steve Kerr has not historically been as big of a Jonathan Kaminga fan as me, but I have read the tidbits, and every indication is that Kaminga looks at this as a great opportunity to learn from Jimmy Butler. He likes what this does to the Warriors' play style. If you look at the way Butler has played, looking for his teammates and cutters has been a huge part of what he's doing. Jonathan Kaminga should benefit from that. That frontline defense of Butler, Draymond, and Kaminga has a chance to be an absolute terror. And, mix in Looney and Post when you have a particularly big lineup to deal with, but just the level of option that Steve Kerr has. And I think it helps that Jonathan Kaminga's best scoring attributes at this stage of his career come largely from attacking, largely off the ball. I don't think it hurts him that much to have a Jimmy Butler here who likes to participate in that sort of offense.
Kind of laughing because with the way the game started and just as we were going along, I was trying to look for any storylines before. Obviously, the storyline was clear. It was rather clear halfway into the third quarter that it was going to be a Steph Curry show. But I took a bunch of notes on Kevin Knox, so we'll keep those for a rainy day and talk about the 10-day. Let's get back to Steph Curry and what he did in the game today. It was excellent. Even had some good defensive moments. Curry just all they needed to do was hang around in the first half because you knew that it was one of those nights where he was going to take you the distance. And this is why no one wants to see. Granted, there are some Nuggets fans in the chat right now that are saying we'd love to see the Warriors in the first round. Bring them on. But this guy's on a tear right now, man. He's been so hot in the month of February, and I don't think you can write him off. He's been on subpar teams the last couple of years. And even when he was on a team that was not that great, not playing amazing basketball against Sacramento, guess what? He willed the Warriors to a win. I mean, he completely flipped that game 7 at Golden One Center against the Kings and went for 50 in that game. And he doesn't look to be slowing down. I know a lot of our shows this year, Kolsky, have been is Father Time starting to catch up to him. And at moments, sure. What's the old saying? He's not as good as he once was, but he's once good as he ever was. And he's as good as he ever was many times. 56 points. He was closing in on a career high tonight. Enjoy this, Warriors fans. You're not going to see this for forever. This is a beautiful brand of basketball. I was telling you yesterday, and you've known this for years, Kolsky. I love my college hoops too. And it's such a hard watch, but they're passionate. And I love the marching band and the tournament's so great. But watching that for another podcast I do on the Cincinnati Bearcats sub 500 in the Big 12, and then getting to turn around and watch Steph Curry, it literally puts a tear in my eye. Like as a fan of the game, how can you not love what you just saw, man? That's what every person that's under 6'4" or whatever it is in the world wants to do as a basketball player, is to be able to basically say, like I said in the YMCA back in the day, you never know. I can shoot 13 of these things, and maybe once in my life they will go in. Maybe next time I go to the state fair, the carnival, and that basketball hoops there, maybe I'll win every single stuffed animal there because I'll be feeling it.
I'll throw that oversized basketball into that undersized hoop one of these days.
They put Crisco on the rims, man. The crooks.
Yeah, listen, enjoy it is the best advice. You know, well, we don't know where this year is going to lead. Like I said, I think there's a really high ceiling to what they can be if they can stay healthy and get everybody playing their best. But undoubtedly, what you do have is a guy that I think is going to go down as one of the 15 greatest players in the history of basketball, still putting on an absolute show. And yeah, there's a limited number of times to see that show. So tune in.
And go back when you watch the highlights. Forget the passes that are zipping in there. Those are nice, but just ISO on Steph. Watch the entire game and just watch Steph the entire game off the ball. It's a thing of beauty. No one moves off the ball like he does. I think it was his 12th and final 3. Pretty sure. It may have been number 11. Someone was flying at him, and that pump fake got him. And I'm like, how are the Magic going to fall for the pump fake right now? Stand your ground. Incredible stuff, man. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, just Steph Curry. Steph Curry is superhuman, and he makes everybody do stuff that they probably don't even know why they did it.
Did he even give a night-night in the game, or was it too close? He didn't even get
no
to give a night-night in a 12-3 game. That's tough. Pulls it out in the third quarter against Dallas, hits 12 threes, none of them a night-night. Night-night from the Locked On Warriors team. Charlie, Walter, Matt Kolsky. This is Locked On Dubs. Warriors win it over the Orlando Magic. It's 5 in a row. We will see you after the Warriors' next game. When is that next game, Kolsky? I don't have the schedule in front of me.
Saturday, my friend. So I don't know if we'll see you after it, but they play the Sixers on Saturday.
I'll be
based
there.
On the way both teams have been playing.
It
should be good.
Should be let's not jinx it. I'll see you after Kolsky won't. Have a good weekend, my brother. We'll talk soon.
Later. I mean.